The views and opinions of Channel 13.
The following is a paid presentation. 13 Action News begins with breaking news.
We are interrupting your regular programming to bring you unrest in Las Vegas. This is night 3 now of protests happening in our valley. Chopper 13 is live over downtown Las Vegas, where hundreds are gathering to protest now. They are demanding justice after the death of George Floyd. We have live team coverage tonight with anchor Kalyna Astrinos, who's on the ground. Ross DiMattei is in Chopper 13, and we are going to get things started with Austin Carter, who is near the container park, and that is really the epicenter of tonight's protest, Austin.
Yeah, and Jackie, and if you can't already tell behind me here, that protest has now moved to the streets here. We are heading down Fremont Street, heading towards the Fremont Street experience. Take a look. You can see everyone is pretty much taking over the entire road here. There have been no vehicles able to get through this area as they started marching from Container Park, now making their way here towards the Fremont Street experience, coming up on 6th Street here now, and you can just see hundreds and hundreds of people are out here completely taking over the sidewalk, taking over the road as well. They've all got signs here saying Black Lives Matter and I Can't Breathe. Of course, this all following that in custody death that happened in Minneapolis. And this is the third night where we have seen these similar type of protests happening right here in our valley. Just one yesterday happening on the Las Vegas Strip. But I can tell you things have pretty much been very peaceful out here. Folks really just trying to come together here, show their support and to speak out here. So again, we're making our way here, crossing 6th Street with these protesters right now here. Again, as we make our way towards Fremont Street. Now, I have spoken with some of the organizers and some people who actually are really involved in this protest here today, and they tell me that they're marching here towards the courthouse here. That's kind of where they want to wrap things up. We knew that there was possibly that protest happening over at City Hall, but again, everyone here is just going to be making their way from Container Park here, heading right here down Fremont Street, and then wrapping up possibly near the courthouse. So we're going to keep going out here. Jack, you can hear those shouts. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. So yeah, a lot of people out here, as you can see, as we continue our march down towards the courthouse. That's the very latest here on Fremont Street. I'm Austin Carter, 13 Action News.
Yeah, Austin, we can definitely hear those chants right now. Before this protest began tonight, we heard religious leaders, community leaders, the mayor of Las Vegas, Metro Police calling for peaceful demonstrations tonight. They do not want to see vandalism, damage of any property. Are you seeing a strong police presence downtown right now?
Yeah, Jackie, definitely no violence. We haven't seen any out here right now. Things have been very peaceful. We're going to keep on walking, though, towards the Fremont Street experience. And in terms of that police presence, definitely didn't look like what we saw out on the Strip yesterday, where we saw those officers were literally lining the road. We saw a lot of those vehicles. I can tell you pretty much honestly, all we've really seen tonight has been that Metro Police helicopter flying up above and circling. And then we have seen a couple officers kind of passing by, just checking out the area to make sure everyone is safe. But yes, no damage to any of the properties out here, no damage to any vehicles, nothing like that. This has been, for the most part, a very peaceful protest. Now, when we talk about that protest that happened yesterday on the Las Vegas Strip, we were talking about, what, about 80 arrests and about 12 officers that were injured here. But, you know, there's what appears to be probably now thousands of people. Things are, again, pretty much for the most part, staying very peaceful, just folks coming together, chanting, rallying here as we move through the streets of downtown Las Vegas. Take a look here. We are now turning, and looks like we are heading south now on Las Vegas Boulevard. Again, as we make our way towards the courthouse. And Stephanie, I want to show them right over here. You can see actually a bunch of these Metro officers right over here. They've got that tactical gear on here. I know, Jackie, we were just talking about those safety efforts here, but you can see Metro here definitely prepared if anything were to happen as we continue our march now south towards the courthouse. Jackie.
Austin, thank you so much. Yeah, we are seeing just hundreds of protesters making their way down. Now, Ross DiMattei is in Chopper 13 right now, and he's really got his eyes on this protest from the skies. And Ross, what are you seeing right now?
Yeah, Jackie, we're seeing movement and a lot of it. We've been following this crowd now for about an hour, and for the first half an hour, of course, that group was at Container Park here in downtown Las Vegas, but just within the last half hour, we have seen this group mobilize, heading west along Fremont Street to the Fremont Street Experience. But you could see there at the entrance to Fremont Street Experience, there was a line of Metro police officers that area. They just kind of the protester appeared to approach Metro, and they pulled him out and placed him under arrest on the spot. But you can see the vast majority of this crowd has continued on from Fremont Street, now heading south down Las Vegas Boulevard. What a sight that is as we scope out just hundreds and hundreds of protesters now lining Las Vegas Boulevard and heading south on the Strip. And we're going to keep the eyes in the sky on them and follow their every movement as we're showing you on Facebook Live and now live on television. But this group is moving, and there's really no end destination in sight. Jackie.
Yeah, Ross, it's really interesting to see this image right now. Just last night, the protesters on the Las Vegas Strip, that was a surreal moment. This is also a surreal moment. I've never seen so many protesters gathered in Las Vegas. Let's get to Kalyna Astrinos, who is standing by at City Hall now. And Kalyna, it sounds like these protesters may be making their way to the courthouse and City Hall.
You know, Jackie, we actually moved from City Hall down to Container Park just to give you another vantage point, because we know that Austin was in another area right now. But I want to kind of paint the scene. We're off 7th and Carson right now. We're near one of the parking lots here, and you can just see the crowd here as well. If you look at the top there, you can see officers looking down at the crowd there in the middle. You can see everyone with the signs here. And earlier, I actually spoke to a woman who said that she has an 8-year-old son, and she came down here to show him that she's going to fight for his justice in the future, and that what happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis is not something that she ever wants her son to face or see in the future. So she came down here with a friend of hers to join in on these protests on these rallies and make sure her voice is heard, just like everyone else that you're seeing right now with their signs, Black Lives Matter. That sign right there says, "I choose to be the change I want for society." We're just seeing so many people here just fled Container Park to have their voices heard. Now, a lot of the protests that we've seen across the U.S. have painted a similar picture, some turning violent, some staying peaceful. We have heard from several people here and some people who are speaking over at Metro headquarters that they want this to stay peaceful. They want everyone to remain calm. They want everyone to just unite together and make their voices heard, that their voices are powerful, and that's something that they really, really want to have happen. And if you look at this crowd here, I know some people are actually walking down the street. We had cars driving by, honking in support, but you can see that it is a very diverse group of people. You have people from all different ages. You have people from different backgrounds, Black, white, Asian. So many people are here for the same exact thing, and they are fighting for justice. They are fighting for George Floyd. They are fighting for all the Black Americans that have been, in these incidents and have been, in those circumstances that we saw with George Floyd, with the officer with his knee kneeling down on George Floyd saying, "I can't breathe." So similar to what we saw with Eric Garner recently, as we know, with Ahmaud Arbery out in Georgia. So a lot of people here, of course, want to just fight for justice. But again, we are saying we are in the middle of a pandemic as well. So as you see this, you're also seeing people wearing masks here. It's a little difficult to obviously practice social distancing, but that's also on the mind of people as well, where we've had so many people on our station on air discussing mental health, discussing depression. And I saw a recent article describing what Black Americans are feeling right now and how anxiety might be something that they're feeling even more because of what recently happened with George Floyd. So we're continuing to watch this for you. We have seen, again, demonstrations happening all across the U.S., California, Chicago, of course, Minneapolis. I was watching some of the protests out in Los Angeles. Some, unfortunately, turned violent. But again, what we've been hearing from a lot of people is that they want to keep this peaceful and they want to keep this okay. And like I mentioned before, we have a lot of kids who are here with their family watching this unfold. and being a part of this. Like we said before, we have a lot of officers here. We actually, on our way here, we're driving by another area that had a couple officers there as well. It didn't appear to be any type of staging area, but I think they have prepared themselves depending on where the officers and where the protesters are heading down. So we'll keep an eye on this for you as well, let you know if anything gets out of control. But right now, everything is looking very, very peaceful. And again, everyone here just really wanting to make their voices heard. Jackie, back to you.
Yeah, Kalyna, thank you so much. That is exactly what leaders in our community have called for. They called for it before the protests began tonight. They say that they wanted peaceful demonstrations. They wanted everyone to have the chance to demonstrate peacefully in our city. Just to put this in a little bit of context, what is happening in our city compared to cities throughout the country right now, 8 states right now have called in the National Guard. We've seen police vehicles torched. We've seen clashes between police and protesters, as you saw here last night in Las Vegas. 80 protesters arrested. But let's get back to that Chopper 13 shot right now over downtown Las Vegas. And Ross, again, just a surreal moment for our city, seeing all of these folks, hundreds of people taking to the streets.
Yeah, Jackie, it really is quite a spectacle. You can see a huge portion of those protesters are lagging behind, but we've been trying to stay out in front of this group to see which way they have been going. And they were on Las Vegas Boulevard for a little while, but then they turned west onto Bridger Avenue and then eventually turned south onto 3rd Street, which we know runs parallel with Las Vegas Boulevard. And it looks like that they have turned now, but generally the direction they've been zigzagging, going south and west. Again, we don't know the final destination, but just seeing hundreds of people along these streets and turning, and they're moving at a pretty good pace as well. But again, we've got eyes in the sky. We are following their every move, and it looks like they're being led by just a small group of protesters who are out in front, but everyone seems to be following in line with that. And other than that one arrest we saw, largely we've seen it remain peaceful, but we are keeping a close eye on this to see if they maintain that peace, as well as we know Metro is in the sky with us as well, following their moves as well. Jackie?
Absolutely, and Austin Carter has been on the ground with these protesters making their way from the Container Park into other parts of downtown Las Vegas right now. And Austin, what are you seeing? What is the mood like during this march right now?
Yeah, so to give you some perspective, Ross was just talking about that vantage point up in Chopper 13. So we are heading now down Bridger. We're crossing 4th here, so we're continuing to make our way through the downtown area. And, we've actually been seeing those Metro Police officers really, working with the protesters here, actually blocking off some of the roads here for folks to continue down. And see, take a moment right here. You see this person's giving away masks right now. There really has been that sense of community out here tonight, where we've really been seeing folks coming together, even passing out water and food to make sure that everyone can be safe out here during all of this. So again, this has really been a peaceful protest for the most part. We certainly haven't seen that scene of protests across the country, but we're talking about thousands and thousands of people is what it seems to be out here protesting this, holding up those signs. All right, it looks they're about to turn down 3rd, head south down there. We're gonna cross the street real quick, Stephanie. Stick with me here. Yeah, and we can see a stretch of people. I'm sure from Chopper 13 you can see it, but we've just really seen what looks like miles heading down parts of Fremont Street and now 3rd Street here as we continue to make our way through downtown. So we've heard kind of mixed opinions and mixed statements about exactly where this protest is leading to. I'm sure we'll get a better idea of that here shortly, but we're just pretty much traversing some of the streets, predominant streets here in downtown Las Vegas. Luckily, traffic has been understanding of this protest. We've been watching those Metro vehicles, Metro police officers blocking off some of the side streets here to make sure that everyone can get through the downtown area peacefully.
Austin, I know that yesterday when I was out in the field covering last night's protest, the protesters that I spoke to said that it wasn't just about George Floyd. It was about so much more than just George Floyd, but they really wanted to see the 3 other officers in that case be arrested and charged. And I'm just wondering if you've spoken to any of these protesters who are marching tonight about their motivation for marching on this 3rd night of protest here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, Jackie, I sure have. And of course, you know, that initial shock and anger came from that video that we all saw, you know, showing George Floyd's death. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of people out here, they've definitely told us, you know, this is something that just shed some light on an even bigger issue with race relations in our country and police brutality. So they say, you know what, this is something that they need to do to really affect change. And I even asked one of those protesters out here, we've seen a lot of the violent protests out here, and those have received a lot of criticism, but a lot of people out here, they feel that they need to do what they need to do to get the attention of local, federal, and state leaders to really make a change here and to see how passionate and how serious people are and really how upset they are about this whole thing.
Austin, have protesters actually told you that they are willing to get violent tonight to make their voices heard?
You know what, Jackie? No, luckily I've not heard that. They were just pretty much commenting on some of the protests they've seen and trying to really, you know, rationalize and understand why some of those protests got violent. But we know this one, they do want this to remain peaceful. So we've really been seeing just, you know, a lot of people out here just having that sense of community and really just trying to do this peacefully. So like I said, we have not seen any violence out here, but we have seen those Metro Police vehicles, Metro Police officers prepared if and when that were to happen. But no, pretty much it's just been as peaceful as it can be given all this activity.
Absolutely. Austin, thank you so much for being our eyes on the ground, being amidst the protesters tonight. It's really, like we've been talking about before, just a surreal image to see all of these people out in the streets of Las Vegas making their voices heard. We do want to mention once again, just putting this protest in context tonight, 8 other states have called in the National Guard because of violent protests in their states. Luckily, that is not the case here in Las Vegas, but before the protest tonight, we heard from Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman. She invoked the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., asking for these protests to remain peaceful throughout the evening. And we heard from other religious leaders, community leaders, and Metro Police as well, saying that they are all in full support of these protesters making their voices heard and demonstrating that First Amendment right, but that they do not want to see damage to property and violence. Let's get once again to Kalyna Astrinos. Kalyna, can you tell me a little bit about what you are seeing on the ground right now?
So right now we actually just moved a little bit closer to Fremont and 7th Street, and you can kind of see there, I think we're going to try to cross the street once we don't have a lot of cars here, but some type of group just gathered in the middle there. They are chanting. I'm a little too far away, so I can't actually hear what they are saying, but it does look like quite a large group of people. Hundreds are here, of course, and we are seeing in the distance, not quite sure if you can see that either, but there are some police officer vehicles there as well. They are flashing their lights. So far, though, I'm not really seeing, just excuse me as I get out of the way, I'm not really seeing any type of violence here. It is peaceful. It just seems to be chanting, and now they are clapping. So I'm not quite sure what exactly went on just now, but as we walk a little bit closer, you can just see, again, everyone here with their signs. One sign I'm seeing right now is "System can't fail those who it was never designed to protect." So just a lot of people, very diverse group of people calling for justice and fighting the injustice that they have faced for so many years. So we're still on the ground here. I'm kind of maneuvering myself around the crowd just to see what exactly is going on right here in the middle. And it looks like we have a young lady with a microphone here, kind of making some statements to the crowd. It's still a little difficult to hear what she is saying exactly, but you can see that the state we are in here in the nation, everyone has their cell phones out. Everyone is recording what is going on, just like how we saw the death of George Floyd unfold in Minneapolis. It looks like there is a person on the ground right now to make a statement. Again, this Black Lives Matter protest, making a statement here in the middle with a large group surrounding them as they're shouting in the middle of the street here. So you can see and you can feel that emotions are high. You can understand the emotions here. Like I mentioned before, I spoke to someone earlier who had an 8-year-old son, saying that she's here to show him that he will be okay in the future. And I'm actually quite surprised with how many kids I've seen here as well. But a very diverse group, a very large group, again, so many people coming together. Now you can hear the clapping here after that demonstration right in the middle there to show their support for Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, and
we are
Kalyna,
hearing a lot of honking in a different area right now.
Kalyna, I'm just going to jump in really quick. It is interesting because right now we're seeing your where you are with protesters kind of gathered in a circle listening to someone speak, but also with our Chopper 13 shot, we're watching a large group of folks still marching their way down the street. So let's get up to Ross DiMattei real quick in Chopper 13. And Ross, just give us a sense of where that group of protesters is heading.
Yeah, Jackie, so we've been following them from the beginning where they originated from Container Park, but the latest is now the group has taken a turn heading north on Casino Center Boulevard. So they were heading west along Lewis Avenue, right towards the Clark County Detention Center, but it looks like they ran into a bit of a police block there around the detention center area. In fact, we saw a bunch of people lined up in front of what looked like a line of Metro officers. That's where you see those police lights there, Jose. Not sure if we can zoom in a little bit and give people some perspective here. But this is where we've seen so many of these tense standoffs between police and protesters around the country and here in Las Vegas. Similar situations where the police are lined up and standing their ground and the protesters are not far away from them. As you can see, hundreds of protesters. And we did see some people disperse at one point and take off running, but we couldn't really pinpoint exactly what the cause of that commotion was. And it seems like everyone has calmed down since then. But this is starting to line up to be one of those tense situations where the police are now face to face with those protesters right there on Casino Center Boulevard. And it seems like they have stopped right there in the general area of the detention center. So we're going to continue to follow this. But again, we've seen a couple stops along the way. This group now appears to be on the move once again, heading north on Casino Center Boulevard. This would be heading back towards Fremont Street. We're going to continue to keep the eyes on them from here in the sky in Chopper 13.
Yeah, last night we saw some of those tense standoffs between police and protesters on the Las Vegas Strip. Now that protest has moved to downtown Las Vegas tonight. And Ross and Jose up in Chopper 13, if you can just zoom out on that shot, are there any streets that are fairly clearly blocked off? I mean, does it look like the officers are trying to kind of steer protesters away from certain areas?
Yeah, Jackie, we have definitely seen Metro officers blocking off certain streets. And Jose, we just had that shot a little bit to the right there of that police line of Metro officers. Now we're giving you the close-up where the protesters are now in very close quarters with those Metro officers there. But we have definitely seen Metro blocking off certain streets and kind of guiding this a little bit. But by no means are they leading these protesters on any specific route. They've just picked certain areas where they are blocking off. And one of those appears to be the detention center there. And that's where a large number of those protesters have now gathered face to face with those Metro officers.
And Ross, Austin is actually on the ground exactly where you're talking about right now. Austin, tell me what you're seeing.
Yeah, so we actually just passed the courthouse here. You can see that crowd is now lining here down Casino Center. But flip to the other side here. We are in front of CCDC. Take a look at these Metro officers. They've been standing out here in front with that tactical gear on. Now, we have seen some of those protesters coming by this area and you know, actually yelling at these officers, talking about their displeasure with the police department out here. But they've been standing out here and then kind of further blocking and walking along. You can see a lot of police vehicles here, and then as well as a couple coming down here as well. Now, one thing we have been hearing about is that police officers have been trying to push people off of the street, and they pretty much have been wanting people just to stay on the sidewalks if they can. Let's keep on walking down here.
And it sounds like we actually have
right here in that tactical gear.
Yeah, Austin, it sounds like we actually have a video of smoke bombs going off. Is that anything that you have seen? Yeah, we're taking a look right now at are we seeing protesters setting off those smoke bombs? Austin, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, you know, I got to be honest, from our location, I haven't seen or heard of anything like that. We are moving closer here now, back again towards Bridger, trying to get a look at the crowd here. We're just seeing I mean, can't even count the amount of people out here. I've never seen this many people fill the streets here of downtown Las Vegas. All right, we've hit another police road barricade here. I'm going to have my photographer, Stephanie, kind of show you this as safely as we can. Sorry, guys. See, they're blocking off this entrance right here. As you can see, they've got their batons out. It looks like it's one of the parking lot areas of CCDC, the garage here right in front. Certainly these officers not playing around when it comes to this protest.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to keep heading north here.
Okay, Austin, we will catch back up with you momentarily. We're going to head over to Kalyna Astrinos.
Okay.
And Kalyna, what are you seeing on the ground?
Sorry, Jackie, I'm not sure if you're talking to me. It's a little difficult to hear you right now, but you can see what is going on behind me. We have people here that are protesting saying no peace. You can see the line of officers here in the middle of the street here, and you can just feel the emotion in the air right now. It says no peace, no justice. That is what they continue to repeat here as they are doing their Black Lives Matter protest here, of course, in response to the death of George Floyd. This has been such a fluid situation. This group of people that you're looking at right now were initially on the opposite side of the street. Everything was peaceful. Then all of a sudden they kind of started walking toward the officers, and they are literally face to face with the officers right now, making eye contact, standing right in front of them. So you can hear their voices grow, get louder and louder. And again, it's just a very fluid situation. They just continue to shout, no peace, no justice. Again, we've been trying to speak to as many people as we can. It's been a little difficult just because everyone has been just really trying to get their voices heard and take part in this protest. But it looks like everything is still pretty peaceful, even though they are right up against the officers here. So we are hoping that it stays that way, considering that is what a lot of people right now are asking for at this moment.
Absolutely. These were similar to the images that we saw last night on the Strip, with Metro officers sort of creating a wall, protesters standing just feet away, and like you said, Kalyna, sort of staring into each other's eyes in a sense. Last night, you're taking a look at what happened last night on the Las Vegas Strip. Now, the protest had started around 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. As you can see, it did become violent toward the later parts of the afternoon. In the beginning parts, it was only 200 or 300 people making their way up and down the Las Vegas Strip. But as you can see, this was around 7 o'clock last night, right in front of the Bellagio, Flamingo, and the Las Vegas Boulevard. 80 protesters were arrested from last night's protests. 12 officers, Las Vegas Metro police officers, were injured in those protests. And they say that they believe that the protest was peaceful, and they believe that agitators had come in toward the end of the afternoon, and it was those folks who became violent and vandalized some of the property. Again, leaders from Las Vegas coming out before tonight's protest, asking for everyone to remain peaceful. We're taking a live look now from Chopper 13. Ross DiMattei is up in Chopper 13 right now. And Ross, it looks like the folks are a little bit more spread apart. Are you seeing kind of groups splintering off at this point, or is there still one big group?
Yeah, Jackie, we're starting to see this group reform, actually. We were seeing them splinter a little bit, but we've now seen the group turn and head south on Main Street. They couldn't continue to walk there along Bridger Street, so they're now turning and heading south. But we've seen this group kind of break up and then come back together, but overall, just so many people now keeping that shape, and the overall group is now heading south on Main Street, and on their left is eventually going to be the city of Las Vegas's government building, and not sure if that's the end destination. There would obviously be some symbolism there, but they are continuing now to head south as a group. But look at the size of that. We've only seen this grow over the past hour and a half, and as they picked up more protesters, and now they seem to be moving as one, heading south along Main Street.
Yeah, Ross, just being on the ground yesterday, seeing those protesters on the Las Vegas Strip and comparing those images to what we are seeing tonight in downtown Las Vegas, it seems like there are a lot more protesters out tonight than even there were last night. And we're going to wrap up our coverage right now, but we will be continuing throughout the night, bringing in a little bit later. But we do want to put this in context one more time. The protests happening here in Las Vegas are just one of many, many protests happening across the country tonight. 8 states have brought in the National Guard. Violent clashes between police and protesters. Luckily, tonight here in Las Vegas right now, it doesn't sound like from any of our coverage yet that anything has turned violent, and leaders are hoping that it stays that way. Thank you so much for joining us for this live breaking news coverage, and we will be back a little later in the evening.
It's been a special report from ABC News.